Hey English kids, how's it going today? This is my first English video. I know some of you guys in my J class only have me for English, don't get to see my science and math awesome videos. I'm sure you're like super excited to say, wow, Mr. McComb. And I'm all sure all you other folks are so excited. Wow, he's doing an English video now, right? Oh, wow. Anyway, uh, just gonna do a little work today. We're gonna get into some grammar with these things called adverbs, and I decided this might be a good time to make an English video. We're going to kind of slow down a little bit on how quickly we go through these things. Adverbs can be a little tricky, so I thought it'd be a good time to make a video for that. Later this week, you're going to do another writing prompt, two writing prompts from Miss Cullen connected to Hatchet. So we're still going to kind of do those things. I loved a lot of what I read for you guys from the Imagining You're the Fire and writing a journal entry, and hopefully you'll like the other creative things that Miss Cullen came up with for later this week in English class. We are also going to try to do a little bit of the grammar. I know some of the stuff out of the book sometimes gets a little boring and dry. It's not the most exciting class stuff. But I do want to make sure we cover a few of these things before the end of the year. So a little compromise there. We're not going to do it all the time, but we still want to get a little bit of that learning done. And I'm going to kind of walk you through a few things, okay? So today's lesson, this is page 246 in the book. And just going to get you started here and then do a little preview of what's in the workbook too. So we're talking about these things called adverbs. So in here it says you've learned that an adjective describes a noun or a pronoun. A word that describes a verb is an adverb, and that kind of makes sense. That's an easy thing to remember, right? Adverb, verb is in the term there. Adverbs tell how, when, or where an action happens. So one important thing here is that keep in mind this we're talking about with action verbs when an action happens, okay? So kind of keep that in mind. Sometimes we'll have linking verbs that can kind of, again, muddy the waters, and that's one of those reasons I wanted to make a video just to discuss a few things. But we can look at a few items in here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see a little easier about some of the things that they tell. So adverbs tell how, when, or where an action happens. Okay, so if we look at these, we have a how and a when and a where example. It says the plane landed smoothly at the airport. In this case, our action verb is landed, what the plane did. And how did it land? This is telling us how. Well, it landed smoothly. So smoothly describes how it landed. Okay, so again, describing or telling about that verb. It could also be when. Sometimes we'll see words like soon. Like that doesn't sound like it's telling us much, but it tells us a little bit about when something might happen. So it says soon Jeff would see his parents at the gate. So see is what Jeff is going to do. He would see them. That would be the action. And then soon describes when he sees them. So our adverb soon describes the action see, tells us when he will see. Then we also have where. And again, sometimes it might be an easy thing like there. They were waiting for him there. Where were they waiting? Waiting is what they were doing. Where they were doing is there. Again, it doesn't really describe specifically, but that's a word that describes the action that's taking place. Waiting where? Waiting there. Okay, so there's an example. One thing to remember here, this is always one that I remember as a kid. Many adverbs end in ly. Most do end in ly, but not all of them. Okay, but usually when a word ends in ly, that's going to be considered an adverb. Okay, so here we have a chart, a few examples, and these aren't the only ones, but you could even just think about using these in a sentence. Somebody ran fast, or somebody threw hard, or the kids played together. Again, these would describe verbs. Or we will go tomorrow. We will eat later. We will drive again. Those would all be actions we could do, and then have these when words in there to help us describe a little bit about when those actions take place. Or we could do where. I could say, I ran upstairs. I drove downtown. I walked somewhere. Again, that doesn't tell us a whole lot, but it's a word that describes the action. Even somewhere it tells us where we're going. Okay, so again, all these are describing verbs. A word that describes a verb is an adverb. Okay, so with all these and these examples in the beginning, it says what adverb describes the underlined verb. So they've underlined the verb here. We have to pick out what's the adverb, and then does it tell how, when, or where. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of that real quick here. Maybe circle the adverb in this case. We'll underline it. We'll underline it in red. So here we have Keith and Tina hurried downtown. So our verb is hurried. Let's talk about what would the adverb be. What's a word that describes hurried? How, when, or where they hurried? Well, where we could describe is going to be downtown. That would be that's our adverb. And so what we also want to tell is that this is describing where they hurried. Okay, so there's that one. How about the other one? They easily found Grove Street Park. Found is the action that happens here with Keith and Tina as they go downtown. They found Grove Street Park. There's a word in here that describes how they found Grove Street Park, and that word would be easily. That tells us how it was. It was easy. They found it easily. Okay, and again, this is going to tell how they found it. So we'll also put how. Again, you're doing this on your loose leaf. Find out how they found it. Okay, great. Let's keep it going. How about the next one? Back to my line. Then they watched the parade from the corner. Now this is a little bit of a difficult one. But what we want to say here, then they watched is what they did. There's something that tells us where they watched, which would be from the corner. I'm going to go ahead and just say this is like an adverb phrase, or we could just say from is kind of the one there that kind of we'll talk about prepositions a little later on. They watched the parade from the corner tells us a little bit about where they are watching. Okay. Then a robot walked awkwardly. There we see an ly word. What's telling us about the way the robot walked? Awkwardly would be the word. Okay. Awkwardly describes how the robot walked. Okay. The last one. Tina and Keith immediately recognize Stan. So they tell us recognize is something we do. We might recognize someone. That's a verb. That's an action. There's a word immediately that we see is an adverb. It has our ly. So again, usually that ly is a good clue. But we also want to tell, does that tell how, when, or where? In this case, immediately might sound like you could say how, but I'm going to say this is a when, like instantly. It didn't take a long time. It was like a short amount of time. It kind of refers to the time it took. Okay, so we're going to say when for that one. Again, I could also understand if you said how for that as well. Okay, how did he recognize immediately? I think I'd say probably when though. Okay, so there's that. There's our little intro. I know you got a little bit on the next page to do, and then there's some in the workbook. I'm going to go ahead and look at the workbook here. I'm going to talk about this one again. Underline the adverb and then tell how, when, or where. There's a few ones in here. First, we need to identify the verbs in here. So let's say our first sentence, let me zoom in again just so we can get nice and close here. Our first sentence, again, we're going to kind of do the same thing. Talk about the adverb. We're going to underline the adverb, so I'll go ahead and circle the verb so we see it first, or put a box around it, and then we'll underline the adverb. So Anna Mary Robertson always helped her mother. The action here is helped, the thing she does. And let's talk about, there's a word that tells when she helped. Or we could say how, I guess. But I think I'm going to say when. When did she help? There's a word always. I'm going to use always here. Okay. And then we're going to tell us that that is telling us about when she helped. Okay. We're talking about when she helped. She patiently took care of the younger children. So our verb phrase in this case would be took care. Patiently tells us a little bit. Patiently, what would that tell us? Well, that tells us how, right? How she cared, how she took care. She was patient. You could say carefully. Other things like that would describe how something's done. Great, okay. Then she became a housekeeper. Now, this is another one where it might sound like a little like what did we have became would be our verb. When did she become then? Again, that doesn't tell us a whole lot. It's not like totally descriptive, but that is telling us when she does it, okay? Great. How about our last one? Not our last one, number 4. Her employers lived nearby. Here, our example of our verb would be lived. And there's a word in here that if I tell you this, let's say if it's telling us where that person lived. Where did they live? Well, they lived nearby. So again, nearby is an adverb that describes where they lived. Again, adverbs are describing the verbs telling how, when, or where. The next one is another where. Give you a hint. I know I'm kind of doing this maybe backwards, but just to help us think through it. Where a hired man worked there with her. So the verb, the action, it would be worked. what's a word we see in here that tells us where that hired man worked? Again, not one that tells us a whole lot of information, but there is going to be our adverb in this case. Okay, so there you go. That is a little example here. Now I know on this page you've also got some to work through here, kind of the same idea. This case it tells us to write the adverb in the sentence on the line and then draw an arrow from the adverb to the verb that it describes. Okay, so make sure as you work through that, let's maybe do our first one together so we're clear. Number 6 is another one that might be a little tricky. Start by thinking, what is the verb? It might be good to put a box or a circle around the verb. We're going to write the adverb in the blank. And our adverb, what describes how, when, or where Anna Mary married? So married would be the verb. The action here would be, the adverb here would be eventually. Okay, so I'm going to underline eventually. I'm going to draw an arrow to that. Telling us, that's going to be telling us when she married that man, Thomas Moses. That tells when. Okay. So talk about the, oh, sorry, actually, that's not what we're not doing that. We're going to talk about this is our eventually. My bad. See, we can all make mistakes. I got so used to, that's exactly why I wanted to walk through this one. I got so used to telling you guys about how to do the top part. Here we're doing it differently. Eventually is a word that tells when, but we want to put here in the line is write the adverb. So it's eventually, and then draw an arrow to this. So there's how we do it. Yeah, I'm glad we did. I'm sure a lot of you would have done that too, right? Because nobody's perfect. I myself got a little caught up in the video here. Good. Okay, so make sure you do that for these last ones. Make sure you just go through, find the action verb. So here our action verb is worked. And how did somebody work? Hard would be that. So you draw an arrow there, and you'll write the word hard over here. Okay, so make sure you get that done. Thanks. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Again, if this is new to you, I'd like to make these videos for pointing out a few big things, and adverbs, again, can be a little tricky. So thanks for watching. Thanks for making your way through it. Hopefully that helps you solve and do the rest of it. Don't forget to do the rest of page 247. And then finish up workbook here. Okay, so cool. Nice work. Again, I'll do another video for the next lesson. We'll go through that part together as well. All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.